Princess Lyra stood on the high balcony of the royal palace, gazing down at the vibrant forests of Zyphora. The trees glowed softly, their bioluminescent leaves lighting the forest floor in green and blue hues. The air was fresh, scented with flowers that changed color as they bloomed. Birds with shining feathers flitted between branches, and distant waterfalls created a gentle music that echoed across the valley. Despite the beauty, Lyra felt trapped. Her father, Emperor Zephyr, ruled the planet with strict rules. Every decision he made followed tradition, even when it harmed the natural world. Lyra had always questioned his choices. She believed the forests and creatures of Zyphora deserved respect and protection. Today, her curiosity had led her to break one of the Empire's most important rules. Earlier that day, she had snuck into the Royal Science Lab. Scientists were preparing to cut down a sacred grove to build a new palace wing. Lyra could not stand by. She had used her small device to create a protective energy shield around the trees, stopping the destruction. She had known it was risky, but she could not watch her home be destroyed for the sake of expansion. Now, her father's words were ringing in her ears. "Lyra, you will regret this. No princess defies my command." The voice boomed through the palace halls. The doors to the balcony burst open. Emperor Zephyr's tall figure appeared, his eyes glowing faintly with authority. He was powerful, both feared and respected by everyone on Zyphora. But Lyra did not flinch. "You cannot banish the forests," Lyra shouted, her voice steady. "They are alive. They feel. They need protection." Zephyr's face hardened. "You disobey me, Lyra. You disobey our people. You are no longer fit to live under my protection. You are banished." Lyra's heart sank. Banished. It was the most severe punishment a princess could receive. To be sent into the untamed forests alone, without palace guards or companions, was considered almost a death sentence. The alien wildlife of Zyphora was not forgiving. Predators roamed the shadows, and the weather could turn deadly without warning. Lyra looked around at the balcony one last time. She saw the city with its tall crystal towers, the flying vehicles, and the crowds of citizens below. This was her home, and now she was being forced to leave it forever. "I will survive," she whispered to herself. "I will prove you wrong, father." With that thought, she stepped down from the balcony and left the palace. The guards would not stop her. The Emperor's command was clear. Lyra carried a small satchel with water, some nutrient packs, and a few tools she thought might help her survive. She had always been clever, always able to think ahead. Now, her intelligence would be her greatest weapon. The forest awaited. At first, Lyra was careful, moving quietly between trees, listening to the sounds of the forest. The glowing plants provided light, but shadows could hide dangers. She remembered lessons from her childhood: how to recognize edible plants, how to avoid predators, and how to find shelter. Despite being an alien princess, she had learned many survival skills from the explorers and scientists at the palace. As night fell, strange sounds echoed around her. Large creatures rustled in the undergrowth, their eyes reflecting the soft light of the plants. Lyra froze, her heart beating fast. She remembered that she could make herself look small and still appear confident. Many predators were cautious of creatures that did not panic. "Steady, steady," she muttered. Using a small tool, she created a protective dome of light around herself, just enough to ward off smaller predators. It flickered and shimmered, casting strange shadows on the ground. Lyra felt a small sense of pride. Even in banishment, she had not lost her cleverness. By the time she found a small cave, her stomach was growling. She had packed some food, but she was tired. Lyra made a small fire, using glowing stones that sparked when rubbed together. The flames were gentle, just enough to keep her warm. Sitting by the fire, she looked at the forest. It was beautiful, but dangerous. She would have to be careful if she wanted to survive. Sleep came slowly. Every sound in the forest made her heart race. The wind whispered through the trees like voices. The distant calls of creatures echoed like songs, and the ground occasionally shook with the footsteps of something large. Yet, she reminded herself of one thing. She was resourceful. She was human, in spirit. Humans had faced impossible challenges before and survived. She would do the same. The next morning, Lyra explored the area around her cave. She found a small stream with clear water and fish that shimmered like silver. She carefully caught some fish for breakfast, using a technique she had read about in the palace archives. The taste of fresh food gave her energy. She began to understand the forest better, the paths, the sounds, and the plants she could use for healing. During her exploration, she also discovered signs of other creatures, tracks in the mud, broken branches, and mysterious glowing seeds. She realized the forest was alive in ways she had never imagined. It seemed to watch her, to test her. Lyra felt a strange connection. Maybe, she thought, this banishment was a chance to learn from the forest rather than just survive. However, she knew the greatest danger had not yet come. Her father would eventually search for her. And what if she was found by hostile creatures or rival factions of aliens seeking power? She needed a plan. She decided to mark trails, hide signals for safety, and prepare traps for protection. Every step was calculated. Every move was deliberate. Lyra was not just surviving, she was strategizing. As the sun set, painting the sky with red and gold streaks, Lyra stood on a small hill, looking at the horizon. Fear and anger were still inside her, but so was determination. She would not allow banishment to defeat her. She would survive, learn, and perhaps even change the mind of her father one day. Unknown to Lyra, her life was about to change in a way she could never imagine. A human from another world was approaching Scifi, and their arrival would set events into motion that neither Lyra nor her father could predict. For now, she was alone. But in her heart, a spark of hope burned brightly. She was no longer just a princess. She was a survivor, a thinker, and a fighter. And Scifi's forest, with all its dangers and mysteries, would become her training ground. The forest of Scifi was alive with movement, color, and sound. Every step Princess Lyra took was careful. She had learned quickly that the glowing beauty of the trees could hide danger. Vines moved with a life of their own, and shadows twisted in ways that made even the bravest creatures hesitate. Yet, Lyra was not afraid. She had survived the first night, and that success gave her courage. Lyra explored deeper into the forest. Her eyes noticed patterns others might miss. How certain plants grew near fresh water. How the tracks of small creatures indicated larger predators were close by. And how the wind shifted before a sudden storm. She marked her path with small carvings on tree bark symbols only she would recognize. These marks would guide her back if she ever needed to flee. While gathering fruits from a tall tree, Lyra heard a low growl behind her. A creature with fur that shimmered like silver crouched among the bushes. Its eyes glowed red, and its claws dug into the ground. She froze. The animal was smaller than the forest predators she had read about, but it was fast and cunning. Lyra remembered her father's lessons. Never panic. She slowly reached for a small flare device she had in her satchel. With a soft spark, she distracted the creature, making it leap back. Using the moment, she climbed the tree and waited until it left. "That was close," she whispered. "I must be more careful." Lyra realized she could not rely on her knowledge alone. She needed to observe the forest and learn its ways. She spent hours watching the creatures, noting their habits, and identifying which areas were safe and which were dangerous. Over time, she discovered small, hidden pockets where the ground was stable and free from predators. She also found a network of caves beneath a hill, filled with soft moss and small streams perfect for shelter and storing food. As the days passed, Lyra began to feel a strange connection with the forest. It was alive in more ways than she expected. Some plants reacted to her touch, closing their leaves when she approached, or releasing a soft glow as a warning of danger. She realized she could use this to her advantage. By studying the movements of plants and animals, she could predict storms, avoid predators, and find food more efficiently. One morning, while exploring a small valley, she noticed a peculiar plant with thick, silver leaves. Its surface shimmered like glass, reflecting sunlight in sharp beams. Lyra examined it carefully. She discovered that the leaves contained a natural liquid that could heal small cuts and burns. It was the perfect addition to her survival kit. Using her knowledge and the tools she had brought, she carefully harvested some leaves without damaging the plant. She felt a thrill. Every discovery made her stronger, smarter, and more confident. But survival was not just about food and shelter. It was about strategy. Lyra began creating small traps to protect her cave and alert her to approaching creatures. She used the forest's natural resources: vines for snares, rocks balanced in clever ways to make noise if disturbed, and even bioluminescent plants as early warning signals. By the end of the first week, her cave was not just a hiding place, it was a fortress. Despite her growing confidence, the forest was unpredictable. One evening, a sudden storm swept through the valley. Rain poured from the sky, turning the soil into slippery mud. Branches broke and crashed around her cave, and small streams became rushing rivers. Lyra worked quickly to secure her shelter, using her knowledge of the terrain to create small dams and channels to protect her cave. By the time the storm passed, she was exhausted but relieved. She realized that adaptability was her greatest strength. One night, as she sat by her small fire, Lyra noticed tracks she had not seen before. They were large, almost human in shape, but the toes were elongated and tipped with small claws. Her heart raced. Whoever, or whatever, had made these tracks was close. She quietly prepared a diversion. Small flares and glowing plants positioned to create noise and light in the opposite direction. If the creature approached, she would have time to escape. The next day, Lyra discovered something extraordinary. Near the tracks, she found a small piece of metal, unlike anything she had seen on Zyphora. It was smooth, curved, and had markings that glimmered faintly. Her mind raced. Could there be other beings on this planet? Perhaps visitors from faraway worlds? The thought excited her. She had survived the forest alone, but now, the possibility of meeting someone else brought both curiosity and caution. Lyra spent the following days improving her skills. She practiced climbing, running silently, and creating tools from forest materials. She even learned to catch fish from the streams without scaring them away. Each day, her confidence grew. She was no longer the frightened princess who had been banished. She was a survivor, a thinker, and a fighter. One evening, while resting near a small waterfall, she noticed a faint light flickering in the distance. It moved unnaturally, unlike any creature she had seen. Lyra's instincts told her it was intelligent. Her heart pounded. Could this be another human? Or some alien explorer? She decided to observe quietly from the shadows, using the forest's camouflage to hide herself. Over the next few hours, the light moved closer. Lyra could see small sparks of metal reflecting in the dim glow. Whoever it was, they had tools, knowledge, and curiosity. She felt a mixture of fear and hope. The forest had been her teacher, showing her how to survive alone. But now, another being might change everything. Lyra realized she had learned something important during her time in the forest. Strength was not only in fighting or hiding. Strength was in thinking, observing, and using knowledge wisely. She had turned the forest from a place of danger into a place of opportunity. She had become more clever than many creatures that had lived there all their lives. As night fell, Lyra returned to her cave, preparing for what was to come. She did not know who the visitor was, or whether they were friend or foe. But she was ready. She had faced fear, hunger, storms, and predators, and had come through stronger each time. The forest, once a symbol of her banishment, had become a place of growth and empowerment. And soon, Lyra would meet someone who would challenge her in a completely new way, a human from another world, whose arrival would change the course of her journey forever. For now, she lay beneath the glowing leaves, listening to the forest's whispers. The night was calm, yet alive, with unseen movements. Lyra closed her eyes, thinking of the days to come. She knew survival was only the beginning. Adventure, discovery, and friendship awaited her, and she was ready for all of it. The forest of Scifi was quiet at first light. Mist curled around the glowing plants, and the soft hum of the trees seemed almost musical. Princess Lyra had spent weeks learning the forest's rhythms, understanding its moods, and predicting its dangers. She had grown confident, even bold. Yet, today she felt a flicker of unease, a sense that something unusual was approaching. It began as a faint vibration in the ground. Lyra paused, ears tuned to every sound. The vibration grew stronger, rhythmic, and deliberate. She followed the source quietly, moving through the undergrowth, her body low and careful. Soon, she saw it. A strange metal vessel had fallen from the sky, landing not far from her cave. Smoke curled from a cracked surface, and the faint glow of internal lights pulsed inside. Lyra's eyes widened. She had read about human exploration vessels in palace archives, but she had never seen one herself. And now, one had come to her forest. The forest, her sanctuary, was about to meet an outsider. From the wreckage emerged a figure. He was tall, wearing a protective suit that glimmered in the soft light. His helmet reflected the glowing trees, and his movements were careful, deliberate. Lyra's heart raced. He was a human, from Earth or another world, was alive, but cautious. He scanned the forest, his eyes sharp and alert. Lyra watched him from a distance, hidden behind a thick tree trunk. She remembered her own fears when she had first entered the forest. But now, she felt a strange mix of curiosity and responsibility. She knew the forest well. The human did not. If he survived here, it would be because of his skill, and perhaps her help. The human, whose name she would soon learn was Captain Eli, moved carefully toward a small stream. His tools were unfamiliar, yet clever. He repaired a small part of his vessel, examined the water, and used a scanner to detect life forms nearby. Lyra observed silently. His attention to detail impressed her. Humans were resourceful, she had read of it, but seeing it in action was different. Suddenly, a low growl echoed from the shadows. A predator emerged, larger than any Lyra had faced alone. Its fur shimmered in dark green hues, and its eyes glowed like fire. Eli froze, scanning quickly. Lyra's heart pounded. She knew this was her chance to act. She crept forward quietly, using her knowledge of the forest. With a small flare and a carefully placed glowing plant, she created a diversion. The predator turned toward the sudden light, giving Eli enough time to retreat to a safer position. He did not see her, but he sensed help. Lyra smiled faintly. Over the next few hours, she observed him more closely. He climbed small cliffs, crossed streams, and avoided dangers she had once feared. Yet, his movements showed signs of struggle. He was clever, but the forest was still alien to him. Lyra realized she could no longer remain hidden. If she wanted to influence the events that were about to unfold, she had to reveal herself. Choosing a moment when he paused near a waterfall, she stepped into view. The soft glow of her protective dome lit her face. Eli froze, staring in astonishment. You are not from here," he said slowly, his voice calm but cautious. "Who are you?" "I am Lyra," she replied, keeping her voice steady. Princess of Zyphora. And you are a human. Eli's eyes widened. I am Captain Eli. I did not expect anyone to be here. Lyra nodded. I was banished from my palace. I have survived in this forest for weeks. You will need help if you are to survive here. Eli studied her carefully. He could see her strength, her skill, and the calm confidence in her eyes. Unlike many others he had read about in alien encounters, she was not afraid. She was intelligent, resourceful, and fully capable of handling herself. Eli knew this human-alien partnership could be critical. Then we will help each other, he said. I can repair my vessel, but I need guidance. You know this forest better than anyone. Lyra hesitated for a moment. Trust was not easy, even with a human, but she sensed honesty in him. And perhaps, she thought, this was an opportunity. Together, they could face the forest more effectively than alone. Follow me, she said. She led him through hidden paths, past camouflaged traps, and around dangerous predators. Eli followed. Impressed by her knowledge, he asked questions, learned quickly, and respected her decisions. Lyra realized that humans had an ability she admired: adaptability. Eli could think fast, adjust to the unexpected, and act decisively. As they moved deeper into the forest, they encountered challenges that tested their partnership. A wide river blocked their path, its current strong and fast. Lyra scouted for safe crossing points, while Eli fashioned a simple bridge from fallen branches and vines. Together, they crossed without incident. Next, they found a grove of glowing mushrooms that released a sleep-inducing pollen. Lyra had known of it, but Eli's scanner helped her identify the most dangerous patches. They avoided the trap, each impressed by the other's skills. By evening, they reached Lyra's cave. Eli looked around, amazed by her careful organization. Traps were hidden, food was stored neatly, and the cave had small signals made from plants to alert Lyra of approaching danger. You have survived here alone? Eli asked, clearly impressed. I had to, Lyra replied. The forest is dangerous, but it teaches you. You learn, adapt, and survive. I have done all I could, but together, we can do more. Eli nodded. He began repairing a communication device, while Lyra prepared a small meal of forest fruits and fish. They spoke little, but each action showed respect for the other. They were learning each other's strengths, slowly building trust. As night fell, Lyra stood outside the cave, looking at the stars above. She felt a mixture of hope and caution. Eli was human, clever, adaptable, and capable, but he was still a stranger in her world. The forest had been her home and her teacher. Now, it would become the stage for something larger. Tomorrow, she whispered, we begin the real journey. Little did they know, the forest itself seemed to recognize their alliance. Creatures that had once hidden now watched from a distance. The trees seemed to bend slightly in acknowledgement. Even the wind seemed calmer, carrying a sense of anticipation. Lyra and Eli were no longer alone. Together, they could face the challenges that awaited in Zyphora's wild and beautiful forests. The princess had been banished, but now she had a companion, a human whose ingenuity and courage matched her own. And soon, they would discover that survival was only the beginning. The forest held secrets that could change everything. The morning sun filtered through the glowing leaves of Zyphora's forest, casting soft green and blue light across the ground. Princess Lyra had been awake for hours, checking traps, collecting food, and studying the small creatures of the area. Captain Eli moved beside her, repairing a tool that would help them navigate deeper into the forest. Their partnership was growing stronger with each passing day. You have learned this forest well, Eli said, glancing around. It seems alive. Almost aware of us. Lyra nodded. It is alive. It tests us, teaches us, and sometimes protects us. You have to listen carefully, or the forest can be dangerous. But if you pay attention, it can guide you too. They walked quietly along a narrow path, lined with tall, glowing ferns. Lyra showed Eli how to identify edible plants, avoid poisonous ones, and find fresh water. She also pointed out hidden signs left by animals, broken branches, footprints, and subtle color changes in leaves that indicated predators nearby. Suddenly, they heard a rustle in the undergrowth. A large predator, far bigger than any they had seen, stepped into the clearing. Its fur shimmered with gold flecks, and its eyes glowed like amber. Lyra froze, calculating. Eli reacted quickly, drawing a small flare gun from his pack. "Follow my lead," Lyra whispered. Using her knowledge of the terrain, she directed Eli toward a narrow gap between two cliffs. The predator lunged, but the combination of her strategy and his quick thinking allowed them to slip past it safely. "That was too close," Eli said, breathing heavily. "But we did it." Lyra smiled faintly. "We make a good team. Alone we might not survive. Together, we have a chance." As they moved deeper into the forest, they discovered signs of something unusual. Strange carvings on rocks, glowing symbols hidden in tree bark, and patterns in the river currents suggested that the forest held secrets from an ancient time. Lyra's curiosity flared. She had never seen these symbols in the palace archives. Perhaps the forest itself was trying to tell them something. Eli examined the carvings. These markings, they look like a map or a guide of some kind. Maybe it leads to something important. Lyra studied the symbols carefully. It could. I've noticed similar patterns in the plants. Some glow brighter when you are close to certain areas. The forest is alive with knowledge it wants to be understood. Their exploration led them to a hidden valley, filled with glowing flowers and a crystal-clear pond. In the center of the pond floated a small platform made of stone, carved with intricate designs. As they approached, the symbols on the platform shimmered, as if reacting to their presence. "This place," Lyra whispered, awed. "I've never seen anything like it. The forest has kept it hidden for centuries." Eli examined the platform carefully. "It might be a source of power or knowledge. Whatever it is, it's important." As they studied the area, Lyra noticed movement near the edge of the valley. A small group of forest creatures watched them silently, their eyes reflecting curiosity rather than hostility. Lyra realized these creatures were intelligent, perhaps guardians of the hidden valley. She gestured to Eli to move slowly. The creatures did not attack. Instead, they circled the platform and then retreated into the trees. Lyra and Eli exchanged glances. Something about this place was sacred, and the forest itself seemed to be guiding them. "Do you feel it?" Lyra asked. "The forest. It wants us here, but it also tests us. We have to be careful, but we must learn what it is protecting." Eli nodded. "Agreed. Let's document everything and figure out how it all works. This could be the discovery of a lifetime." Over the next few days, Lyra and Eli explored the hidden valley, mapping the glowing patterns, observing the creatures, and experimenting with the strange energy that seemed to flow through the area. They realized the energy could heal minor wounds, enhance alertness, and even help them move faster through the forest. The forest was not only alive, it was a source of incredible power. But with their discoveries came danger. Lyra's father, Emperor Zephyr, had sent search parties into the forest to find his banished daughter. Soldiers moved cautiously, using sensors and weapons to track signs of life. Lyra and Eli observed them from a distance, realizing that they would need to stay hidden while continuing their exploration. "We can't let them find us," Lyra said. "If they do, they will destroy everything the forest has taught me, and possibly harm you too." Eli nodded. "We need a plan. We can use what we've learned here to stay safe and protect the forest." They devised clever strategies: traps to slow intruders, camouflage using bioluminescent plants, and diversion tactics that would mislead anyone following them. The forest itself became an ally, responding to their careful guidance and understanding. Lyra felt a deep connection with every tree, every stream, every glowing plant. One evening, as they rested near the crystal pond, Eli turned to Lyra. "You've taught me more than I could have imagined. Humans are clever, yes, but your courage and knowledge, it's amazing. I can see why your father fears your independence." Lyra smiled softly. "It's not fear I want. I want understanding. The forest teaches patience, observation, and respect. Humans and aliens alike can learn from it, if they are willing." Eli nodded, understanding. Together, they continued their exploration, finding small ruins hidden beneath the forest floor, ancient structures covered in glowing moss, and intricate carvings. Each discovery revealed more about the history of Scifi and the forest's hidden intelligence. Lyra realized that her banishment had not been a punishment alone, it had been an opportunity. She had survived, learned, and now had a companion who shared her curiosity and respect for life. Together, they were uncovering secrets that could change the balance of power on the planet, and perhaps even influence her father's decisions. As night fell, the forest glowed softly around them. Lyra and Eli sat together on a small hill, looking down at the hidden valley. The creatures of the forest watched silently, and the glowing plants shimmered in patterns that felt almost like approval. "We've done well," Lyra whispered. "But this is only the beginning. The forest has more to teach us, and we must be ready for whatever comes next." Eli placed a hand on his chest, feeling a sense of respect and trust for the princess beside him. "I've learned more in these days than I could have imagined. With your guidance, we can face anything the forest, or your father, sends our way." Lyra nodded, feeling a spark of hope. She had been banished, left alone, and forced to survive. But now, she had discovered not only the secrets of the forest, but also the value of partnership, trust, and human ingenuity. Together, they could face the coming challenges, protect the forest, and perhaps even change the future of Scifi. The night air was cool and filled with the soft hum of life. Lyra looked at the stars above, her heart steady and determined. The alliance she had formed with Eli was more than survival. It was a promise that courage, intelligence, and respect for life could overcome fear, rigidity, and danger. And in the heart of Scifi's glowing forest, Lyra and Eli prepared for the next stage of their journey, a stage that would test their bravery, wisdom, and the strength of their bond like never before. The sun rose over Scifi, painting the forest in gold and green. Princess Lyra stood at the edge of her hidden valley, her heart steady. The forest had been her home, her teacher, and her ally. But now, it was time to face the greatest challenge yet. Her father, Emperor Zephyr. Reports from her scouts, small forest creatures she had trained to watch the perimeter, had informed her that the Emperor's forces were entering the forest. Soldiers and advanced search drones moved cautiously, scanning for any sign of her. Lyra knew that fighting them head-on would be dangerous. Instead, she had a plan, and with Captain Eli by her side, she felt confident. "Are you ready?" Eli asked, adjusting a small device on his wrist. He had modified it to create temporary shields, using the energy from the forest. Lyra nodded. "We don't need to fight. We need to show him reason. The Emperor respects strength and intelligence. Today, we use both." They moved through the forest quietly, using hidden paths and signals to avoid detection. Lyra's knowledge of every tree, stream, and hidden grove allowed them to stay ahead of the search parties. Yet, she also left subtle markers, light patterns, and glowing plants to guide them to a central location, the crystal platform in the hidden valley. By midday, They reached the platform. The glowing pond reflected sunlight like a mirror, and the intricate carvings shimmered in response to their presence. Lyra stood tall, her posture regal despite the danger. Eli stood beside her, his calm human determination evident. Together, they were ready to face the Emperor. Soon, a large group of soldiers arrived at the edge of the valley, led by Emperor Zephyr himself. His eyes, glowing faintly with authority, scanned the surroundings. "Lyra," he called, his voice both commanding and furious. "Return to the palace at once. You have no right to defy me." Lyra stepped forward. "Father, I am here to show you the truth. The forest is alive, and it is being harmed by your decisions. I have survived here, learned from it, and discovered things you could never understand from the palace." Zephyr's face darkened. "You dare lecture me? You are my daughter. You obey me, or you face exile. Or worse." Lyra held her ground. "Exile taught me more than fear ever could. I learned patience, observation, and respect. I learned that strength is not just power, it is intelligence, courage, and understanding. And I am not alone." Eli stepped forward. "Your Majesty, I am human. I come from a distant world, but even I can see that your actions could harm this planet. The princess is right. The forest is alive, and it needs protection." Zephyr's eyes narrowed, but he listened. Eli continued, showing him the devices and recordings they had gathered. Maps of the forest, images of hidden valleys, and evidence of its unique energy. Lyra spoke of her discoveries, of how the forest could heal, guide, and even protect life. The Emperor's expression softened slightly, though pride and authority still held him tightly. He stepped closer to the platform, examining the glowing carvings and shimmering pond. For the first time, he saw the forest not as a resource to control, but as a living, breathing world full of intelligence and wonder. "You survived here alone," Zephyr said quietly, almost to himself. "You were clever, brave, and strong. You have learned what I could not teach you." Lyra bowed her head slightly. "It is not only I who learned, Father. Humans and aliens alike can learn from respect and observation. Strength, without understanding, leads to destruction. We must protect this forest for everyone." The Emperor looked around. The soldiers and drones paused, sensing the change in his demeanor. Even the creatures of the forest watched silently. It was as if the entire valley held its breath. Finally, Zephyr spoke. "Very well, Lyra. You have shown me courage, intelligence, and wisdom beyond your years. I lift your banishment. You are free to act as you see fit, but with responsibility. You are my daughter, and a leader of Zyphora. But more importantly, you are a protector of this world." Lyra felt a surge of relief and pride. She had survived the forest, formed a unique alliance with a human, and earned the respect of her father without violence. It was a triumph of intelligence, courage, and moral strength. Eli smiled, clearly proud of her. "You did it, Lyra. You didn't just survive. You changed minds, and perhaps even changed the future." Lyra looked around at the glowing forest, at the pond, the carvings, and the gentle creatures that had been her guides and allies. "This forest will remain protected," she said softly, "and we will continue to learn from it. Humans, aliens, and everyone on Zyphora, there is so much we can achieve if we respect life and work together." The Emperor approached her, placing a hand lightly on her shoulder. "You have proven that strength is not only in power, but in wisdom. You have made me see the world differently. I am proud of you." Lyra smiled. "Thank you, Father. But this is only the beginning. There is much to discover, and much to protect." The soldiers and drones slowly retreated, leaving the valley peaceful once more. The forest seemed to glow brighter, as if acknowledging their success. Lyra and Eli sat together by the crystal pond, reflecting on everything they had learned. "You were amazing," Eli said quietly. "Humans have ingenuity. Yes, but you combined courage, knowledge, and strategy in ways I've never seen. You're incredible." Lyra laughed softly. "I learned from the forest, and from survival, and having a clever human by my side didn't hurt." They spent the evening exploring the valley, documenting the glowing patterns, and ensuring that the forest's secrets were safe. Lyra felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She had been banished, left to survive alone, but she had turned that challenge into opportunity. She had discovered strength within herself, and found a loyal ally in a human from another world. As night fell, the forest shimmered with gentle light. The air was filled with the soft hum of creatures, the rustle of leaves, and the sparkling glow of bioluminescent plants. Lyra stood on a small hill, looking out at the horizon. She felt hope, excitement, and determination. "I survived," she whispered. "I learned, I grew, and now I am ready for everything that comes next." Eli stood beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We face it together. Humans, aliens, and the forest. We can achieve anything when we respect and learn from each other." Lyra smiled. The banishment that had once felt like the end had become the start of a new life, one filled with adventure, discovery, friendship, and the triumph of courage and intelligence. She had proven that even in the wildest, most dangerous places, the human spirit and the spirit of life itself could endure and succeed. The forest whispered around them, alive and vibrant, holding its secrets safely. Lyra and Eli looked at each other, knowing that together they could face any challenge. And so, in the heart of Zyphora's glowing forest, a princess and a human forged a new path, one of courage, wisdom, and hope for the future.